Imagine, if you will, I'm sure a lot of people have wanted a book like this. What if there was a book where it was the protocols of the elders of Zion, but instead of Jewish people, they were Persians, and the elders of Zion, the elders of Persia, were the good guys? Well, do we have a book for you?
That's right, folks. It's Thursday, April 3rd, and we have a very special book report for you on today's program. Joining us is valuetainment scholar and apprentice Rob Franco. That's right. We are going to be talking to you about business legend and Persian-American Patrick Bet-David's new novel, The Academy. But before we get to that, obviously, I do want to wish everyone a happy post-Liberation Day. And there'll probably be more about this in the coming weeks. But I think we can say definitively, the money has been molested. The banks are out of money. All of the dollars, they've been molested, folks. They've just been cast in a Disney Channel original series. They're being sent to a British boarding school. The money has been molested to a permanent end. Will it work? I don't know. Let's give it time. Let's let's see what happens.
I mean, I don't know. I was against the president randomly pressing the ruin the economy button.
That's because you're a PMC liberal bug man.
Yeah. And for those keeping track, it's now gay if you care about things getting more expensive. It turns out that was the most important thing like 3 years ago, but now it doesn't matter at all. And you should give it up for nothing. But I was against this, obviously, until I saw the 17% tariff on Israel. And they tried to prevent it by cutting all tariffs on American imports. Did not work. So I think he's another 83% away from winning this trade war against Israel.
I guess I don't know anything about the economy. I think that's been pretty well established. But what my gut instinct here says is that this will be terrible for America, but good for the rest of the world because it will supercharge the incoming century of China. And, anything to destroy the wealth and influence of the United States, I think, is ultimately for the best in the long run. But, like I said, let's see what happens. But keep in mind that the banks are out of money. If you haven't gotten all your money out of the bank, then you will not be seeing it again as it's been molested.
Yeah, and if you have a family, I know this is a really stressful time. You don't want to panic. Just kill all of them now. Save them the suffering. You don't want it to be 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line, and you're like, oh my, I could have saved them so much. We lived through Threads. Why didn't I kill them when they would have good memories? So kill them now. Don't panic. If you have money in the stock market, don't kill yourself. If you're going to retire in the next 40 years, kill yourself. But if not, you're fine.
No, I mean, obviously, the future of our show is well assured. Our financial advisor, Matt V. Brady, has been warning us that the banks are out of money for years. So we have no money in the bank. So it's been safe. Our money is safe from molestation.
Everyone laughed at me when I put all that money into CSGO skins. Who is laughing now?
Well, one person who's sure not to be laughing, or actually laughing and enjoying himself, is valuetainment CEO and mogul Patrick Bet-David.
Why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet-David? Valuetainment, giving values contagious.
Is the subject of today's episode. Well, actually, more the subject of today's episode is his thinly veiled fictional alter ego, Ashur, an 18-year-old California kid who loves riding a motorcycle, fighting people, and joining the academy.
Important character note, Ashur is noted within the first 5 chapters as enjoying sex.
Oh yeah, the thing about the way his character is set up, it's what a really lame person's idea of a cool kid is. So he rides a motorcycle and he fights and he gets a lot of pussy, and his girlfriend is black and Puerto Rican. She's got a big fat ass. He mentions her big fat ass 2 times.
Her family is really proud of her big fat ass, and they argue over. Literally, her grandparents and uncles are like, it's our genes that gave our relative our 17-year-old relative an amazing huge ass that we all want to fuck. It's
just for listeners, I do have this section highlighted and ready to go. This is the first of many readings from Patrick Bet-David's The Academy. Girls had never been a problem for Ashur, but he had never been in love before. Maybe that's why girls came so easily. He was always honest and upfront about what he wanted, frank in a way that seemed to surprise the women and make them want to be with him even more. He enjoyed sex. It was a fun, good escape, the physical release, and the little moments of quiet, playful intimacy. But he was careful to keep things casual always. You can't lose what you don't have, so he made sure to never have anything too precious. But Kiki Johnson was different. He had met her in history class his sophomore year. She always sat in the front row, raised her hand to answer questions faster than anyone else, and seemed to know more about certain topics than their teacher, who sometimes seemed like he didn't quite know what to do with her. And then, at one point he does make clear that she is half black, half Puerto Rican, but with blue eyes, and that everyone in her family argues about which side of their genetics produced her, quote, perfect bubble butt.
Okay, so you'll notice how he describes Asher, aka a 17-year-old Patrick Bet-David, and I think Rob hit the nail on the head in like this is someone's idea of a cool person. But what I love about his descriptions of Asher is just how much he defies the convention of show don't tell. Asher is all tell. For instance, pretty much every point of view chapter or segment with Asher, where we're seeing what he's seeing, we're thinking what he's thinking. We're told how pissed off he is. He's so fucking angry.
Oh my God, Felix! I counted no less than 20 descriptions of Asher that describe him as boiling over with rage, feeling a white hot rage inside him. He felt that familiar sting of anger and
he's ready to punch his mom. That's a great part. He's ready to beat the shit out of his bitch mom.
What happens there is weirder. We'll talk about that later.
Sure.
But in his actual conduct, most of the time, how this uncontrollable rage that also, he also has incredible potential, which it doesn't describe what he's good at, why he's smart.
No, he just respects his dad and he respects not telling lies. Like it's all just like
so he has amazing potential and he's pissed off all the time. But they demonstrate this by just any adult talks to him, whether it is like the evil Persians that ruined Iran by giving it to the Ayatollah, or like the good ones that were the good members of Savak, who now run the elders of Persia, the hologram school that we'll talk about. They're like, you have so much potential, but you're so pissed off. But every time that someone pisses him off, the description is like, he felt a white-hot anger rising inside of him, a familiar feeling for Asher. But he thought about it for a few seconds and decided he shouldn't do anything rash. And then it turned out fine. And it's like, okay, then it sounds like anger isn't he sounds like he's gone through like 30 years of DBT. Because he's always able to take a breath and think about it. It never really affects him poorly, like ever. It always turns out fine for him. He's always either able to think about it or like it was he does get pissed off and like hit someone or do something crazy. But then the elders of Persia are like, that was a test that proves you're an even better person than we thought.
Well, they have that test where they just like they put you in a box and berate you, and he tests the highest levels because they just berate him for 10 minutes. Yeah, and like his scores are the highest we've ever seen.
So I don't want to give away too much before we explain the whole concept. Okay. But
sorry,
basically, this starts out as like Persian Hunger Games, and then it becomes Dune because they put him in the Persian Gom Jabbar. And the Persian Gom Jabbar is when your dead dad, who is like in Savak, tells you how great Iran was before the revolution. Women in bikinis, everyone was smoking, there's movies, blah, blah, blah. And you have to like not cry. You have to like not kill yourself. And he does the Gom Jabbar for 10 minutes, and all the guys are like, no one's ever been able to withstand this much pain. And it's like, this is fucking Dune. This is the exact thing.
Felix, I would describe this book as Ender's Game if it were written by a Persian instead of a Mormon. Across with a Hogwarts-like school run by the Savak that teaches you important life lessons on how to be a great leader by showing you using some totally vague technology to create realistic, like real-life holograms of Martin Luther King, Tupac, and Adolf Hitler.
Yeah. It is a hologram school where they teach they just scout out all these like exceptional Persians in America. And most of them are like, by the way, you know how Asher is like someone's idea of a cool person? The smart characters are Patrick Bet-David's idea of a smart person because they're all like, this reminds me of a great chess move.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, I'm not as brave as you. I'm not as brave as you.
When you were 13.
Yeah, I'm not as brave as you, Asher, but this reminds me of my favorite thing from science, the periodic table. Like, they're just, it's so, I mean, I do want to make it clear, though. We've read a lot of, like, novels by conservative figures. And I think, in general, like, my favorite comedic device in all of fiction is when you have, like, a character who's pompous or an asshole or stupid. Write a novel or an autobiography, because it's such a great... You get to do so many things with a character that you wouldn't otherwise do because they're so on the nose. Like Dennis Reynolds' erotic journeys. That's what this book reminded me of a lot of the time. But the thing that I was talking about with a fellow Patrick Bet-David scholar, Amber, about this, when you read Ben Shapiro's novels or something like that, like Glenn Beck, like the stuff we've read, the spite and resentment and anger and just like the horrifying worldview is dripping off the pages. It's funny, and there's like all these like silly like homoerotic elements you can laugh at and bad writing. But make no mistake, like the pure malice towards the world is there. The weird thing here is, though, I didn't really get that. I didn't get that at all, and I don't think PDB is a malicious character. Like, this book it's hilarious, it's incredibly stupid, it basically presupposes that every power in the world and every powerful individual is constantly thinking about Iran. And that there was a conspiracy by the West to take out the Shah because he was too brave. Like,
because he was too handsome, brave, and good at speaking English, and like,
and he was going to make Iran a military power.
Yeah, no, like,
and yeah, but I don't get the sense that like he's like an awful, hateful, like he's silly and he thinks stupid things, and we've like made fun of him obviously because he's hilarious. But like, I don't. The biggest thing that changed me about Patrick is when Amber showed me that he has a very age-appropriate wife and, like, normal kids. Because if you wrote this book about yourself as a 17-year-old and you're great at sex and you're the most pissed-off guy ever and you beat the shit out of everyone, and he was one of those conservative guys who's like, here's my wife, she was born in 2012, you know? You'd be like, oh, this guy's a fucking maniac. But the fact that he has, like, an age-appropriate wife who he's very sweet with, and, like, they didn't have kids until they were, like, 50 because Amber says they probably had some deal where it's like, we can't have kids until I make my first 10 million, you know? It makes it all very, like, silly and sweet to me, I guess, because he probably, like, in the book, he meets the love of his life, another Persian, and it's like, oh, that's supposed to be the real Patrick's wife. And it just, it, like, charmed me in this way, even though I resent the time that I've had to spend reading this and later listening to the audiobook.
To reiterate what you said, Felix, like, this book is horribly written. It's clearly the product. I mean, he is sort of like a Garth Marenghi style writer in that he's written more books than he's read, and you can tell.
All I do is sit down at the typewriter and start hitting the keys. Getting them in the right order, that's the trick.
Like, there are just like many like errors in the book. Like, I mean, the repeated invocation of the same sort of description of the way people look over and over and over again.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. Did you notice this? How every good character gets about a paragraph describing how handsome they are, and every bad character, they get pretty much no physical description.
One piece of bad writing that really bothered me is in like the very beginning. There's a scene between Kiki and Asher. There's only two people. One is a man and one is a woman. And instead of like being like he said, she said, he keeps repeating Kiki said, Asher said. It's like we know the two apart. You don't have to keep saying their fucking name the entire time.
And like there's no less than half a dozen characters that are introduced for like a scene, and you're like, oh, I wonder where this is going, and then they just disappear. Like they're never mentioned again in the novel.
Wait, does Dobie L ever come back?
Yes, he does.
Okay,
he does.
Yes,
okay,
he does.
We can get to that because I'm very curious about Dobie L.
Speaking to like the sort of bizarre blinkered, but you know, I wouldn't say entirely evil mind at work here. I read this book as like the last time we talked about PBD on the show. We were discussing his knowledge and thinking room, where he has a a custom, like a painting custom done for
Beautiful.
him.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Of Abraham Lincoln, Albert Einstein, the Shah, and Tupac, like sitting in a bank vault, exchanging ideas. And I think this book was like his through the guise of genre and science fiction. He was like, what if I could hang out with them in real life?
Oh,
What if I could learn from
that's
them?
what it is.
Yeah.
In the painting, the two books you have to know are the Communist Manifesto and Atlas Shrugged, the two most important texts.
Yeah, and
Smart
then
guy.
which is recreated in this book. I love that Ayn Rand is one of the holographic teachers. But like, look, before we get into the plot of this book, I mean, we've given you glimpses of it, but like, is there anything that our listeners who are maybe not familiar with PBD, Patrick Bet-David, and his valuetainment empire should know before I start actually breaking down the plot of this novel?
So Patrick Bet-David, we've alluded to him before. I've done more Patrick Bet-David related work on his Son stream. We watched that. God, I forgot. It was so long ago, but it was something where he's talking to a guy about how like if you read about being gay, can it make you gay? Because I read about real estate and it made me get into real estate. So he's an amazing mind. He's an amazing mind. He's this Persian guy who like. If you type in his name on YouTube, you see a lot of videos accusing him of running various pyramid schemes, which I think is a sort of form of racial profiling. I will not accuse Mr. Bet-David of such.
Yeah, he's not Egyptian.
Yeah, yeah. But he's sort of in that like right-wing podcast sphere. But I've always found him much more interesting than the rest of those guys because, again, like I'm sure he's into like stupid culture war stuff, but he doesn't seem as he's more one of those guys who's like, you know, instead of like, we should kill all the homeless, let's like kill every immigrant. He's like, well, if every homeless guy started a business, they could all be a millionaire.
Yeah, it's like the Patrick Bateman type of thing of why don't you get a fucking job out? Like that idea of like, let's teach a man to fish. We could all start a business and make millions.
Yeah. Like we've talked about his thinking room before. And this book is like a very Walter Mitty exercise. In general, I consider him a much more like whimsical and like funnier guy than most of those people. Like weird hypothetical, I'm aware. But if I had a kid and like the federal government was like, we've seen how much money you spent on flight equipment. We're taking your kid away. You have to pick someone. Because Trump is president. You have to pick someone from the right wing podcast sphere to raise your kid. I would go Patrick Bet-David, no question.
Give a man valuetainment and he'll be valuetained for a day. Teach a man valuetainment and he'll valuetain others for the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
So yeah, gotta get into the plot of this book. The book begins with a flashback to the first of many interminable flashbacks in this book that all deal with the Iranian Revolution. And it's basically the book begins with like two Savak agents. If you're not familiar, Savak was the rather brutal secret police of the Shah who were watching it all fall apart. And they're two characters, Sargon and Narima. And, you know, like they're sort of debating about like, oh, should we have done more to stop this Islamic revolution from happening? And one of them, Sargon, is a little more resigned to it. And the other, Naminra, is like, no, we should have done more to stop this. And then we jump forward to the future and meet our main character, young Patrick Bet-David, Asher, who's is a brooding teenager who's been kicked out of high school and everywhere else for fighting. And basically, he's just wondering, what's he going to do with his life other than ride his motorcycle? And he's like, oh, no, I'll go visit the grave of my father. Yeah.
And by the way, if you think the dead dad comes up only a few times, I wasn't aware I could have this thought, but it's like, you know, it's sad if you lose your dad at a young age, especially if you're like, you know, not even a legal adult, you're like 17. But if Asher was a real guy and he talked about his dead dad this much, I would be like, can you let it go? Like everything he does, he's like, what if my dad was here? He's like having sex. I wish my dad could see this.
Well, also his dad died when he's 12 and now he's 18 and he keeps bringing it up and everyone's saying, I'm sorry. Like it just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
It's been 6 years. The I'm sorry window is closed. It's fine.
When your dad dies when you're young, it's like sad, but you don't. After 6 years, you're not like kissing a girl, and you're like, I wish my dad could like push my head into hers. I wish he was here to do that.
I have a paragraph here describing Ashur and his character. The helmet hid his olive-skinned face, a scruffy beard and dark shadows under his large brown eyes. He was 18 years old, tall and fit, all his muscles taut now as he strained against the motorcycle. A few years back, he'd joined a boxing gym, marveled at the way his young body turned shredded from consistent work at the weights and in the ring. He loved the feel of his fists against the heavy bag, and even more against the headgear of his sparring partners. They told him not to come back until he could control his anger, so he'd never gone back. So it's like,
so he's like not a good boxer.
Yeah. And I'd like to I highlight that section because as we've already mentioned, the book is constantly talking about the potential for him to be something much greater than what he is. And it's just like, this guy can't even go to a gym without fucking getting kicked out.
He sounds like an idiot.
Like the purpose of sparring is not to hurt your sparring partner and vent all your anger at the world through the guy you're training with.
Yeah, like if you do that, if it's like an actual boxing gym, you'll just get if you keep doing that, you'll get the shit beaten out of you by an actual pro. There's no 18-year-old. I don't care how much potential he has and how Persian he is. He's not going to be better than a really good amateur. But apparently he's just so pissed. He was knocking out undefeated fighters. They were time to practice and hone our skills. And he was like, my dad's dead. Fuck you. Ah! Bites their ear off.
So he's driving his motorcycle and he's feeling bad about his dead dad. So he decides to do what he did. As the impression I got from the book about imagining what Ashur's life is like, it's basically he's been kicked out of school and all he does is hang out at his father's grave and get mad and get mad at his alky communist mother for not joining him on these daily excursions to the cemetery to pay respect to his father.
Yeah, his life, he's somehow having all this sex, but his only hangout sites are his dad's grave and Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah.
He works at Bob's Big Boy and then idles for 12 hours at his dad's grave like an NPC, and then his scripting restarts and he's like, time to go get pissed somewhere else.
I also love another really beautiful detail about this is the only two things his father left him after his death is his motorcycle and a gun. That's pretty badass.
An unloaded gun.
Yeah. This is, I love Ashur is the idea of a stupid, what a stupid person thinks a Michael Mann character is. It's just he's just this cool guy. He's so cool and angry and brooding, but he never takes it out, and he's got a gun and a motorcycle.
Well, one thing I love about Ashur is that they do pretty much every hat convention of a self-insert young male character, which is tons of potential, super pissed. He has a ton of sex with random women, but not in a way that uses them. They all respect him and like him. But my favorite thing is they do this hilarious. They do this Goodwill Hunting thing where his Kiki Johnson, the girlfriend, is you're destined for something great. You got to get out of here. This dead end place, and it's where Glendale. Glendale's fine.
So he drives to Burbank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So on this current excursion to the cemetery, he sees another Persian man standing over his father's grave named Dobel or something. I forget the name of this character. Dobiel, yeah. He claims to know his father and then hands him his card. And then, does this character come back at all? I don't think so.
Oh, no. Dobiel comes back in a big way.
Dobiel. Yeah.
Okay. We'll get
okay. No spoilers.
Okay. So he's like, hey, kid, I noticed you at... Hey, kid, I've noticed you around this cemetery looking at the grave that I also hang out by. Okay, look me up sometime. I've got some work. I can tell you have big things, and I can discern your great potential from the...
I've seen you staring slack-jawed at this grave and then punching a tree. You have a ton of potential, I can tell.
So then Ashur goes home and then immediately gets in a fight with his alcoholic mother about visiting his father's grave. And this is a section that I think bears a reading from.
Yeah, this is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a book. This is like, the listener will just have to hear this, but it is like, at times I was like, is this going to be like the staircase scene from History of Violence? Like it's like more erotic than any of the times he fucks Kiki Johnson and her big perfect ass that her family loves.
So
I was thinking of it as like the scene from Boogie Nights where she's just sitting there like, do you fuck that girl? Well, you know.
Oh yeah. So he gets in a fight with his mom, Rose, who is an alcoholic and a communist who lives off social benefits and the money from the sale of their house, and just generally like sits around the house all day getting drunk and smoking cigarettes.
Bitch.
Yeah.
She's Azerbaijani, but
so then she's like, stop visiting your father's grave. When are you going to make something of your life? Don't be a loser like him. And he's just like,
you know how much
fuck you, mom.
Do you know how much you would have to visit your dad's grave for your mom to be like, can you stop? You'd have to live there.
So this is a scene between Ashur and his mother Rose. What are you going to do? Hit me again? Ashur said. He thought she looked like she wanted to. When she didn't say anything, he grabbed her hands. She shrieked and tried to pull away. Let go of me, his mother said. But instead, Ashur took her hands, still clenched in his fist, and started to hit himself across the face. Hit me, he said. Go on, hit me. Hit me harder. Does that feel good? Isn't that what you want? As Ashur walked and then later says, as Ashur walked the lonely dark blocks to his bike, he realized he was leaving behind his first love, his mother, who had just broken his heart for good. The engine roared when he started it, drowning out the sound of her cries, still echoing in his ears.
Awesome.
And I'd also like to point out that, like, at this point, like, the first dozen or so chapters of this book conclude with an interminable flashback that like depicts a conversation that he's remembering a conversation that he had with his father about Persian history. And if I could just give like a little bit of writing advice to PPD here, you want to end your chapter on something that leaves people wanting to read the next chapter, not with 5 to 6 pages of the most interminable conversation about why the Shah was the best guy in human history.
I was really like, I literally sat down for like 12 hours consuming this. And by the third time they end a chapter with the dad being like, and another thing, the buildings look better. Did you know apartments had higher ceilings when the Shah was in charge? Because he spent time in I wanted to kill myself. Like, it's terrible. Nothing happens in any of these. There's no like cool action. There's no point where like a Savak sociopath goes into bullet time. He has to send Devastan from fucking Cyberpunk and domes a bunch of jihadists. No, it's just all these like old Persian guys talking about how awesome it was when the Shah was in charge.
Yeah, like there's details like, oh, Frank Sinatra would vacation there. It was the most beautiful place in the world. And then there's all this stuff about how the West feared the Shah because he was handsome, articulate, and that Iran was going to be a major military power that would rival the United States of America. And
they say that like the Western powers started conspiring against the Shah in 1973 when he was like, hey, we should nationalize all this oil we have. And I thought, that sounds like a familiar idea from exactly 20 years before. Do you think the Shah had any part in getting rid of the first guy that said that?
Well, yeah. Does he mention Mossadegh in any part in this book?
No.
Yeah.
So like, he does not.
Because like they're talking about basically like this book is basically like he wants to instill in America's youth a burning love for the Iranian monarchy and a burning white hot rage at the Islamic Republic, who made the ceiling shorter and kicked Frank Sinatra out of the country.
Yeah, destroyed all the bikinis in Iran.
When you're you read it, right? You didn't listen to it?
No, yeah, I read it.
Okay, so when it switches back to the flashback with the dad, is there like a thing in the text to indicate, like, does he transition it? Okay, because I felt the first time it happened on the audiobook, I felt fucking insane because just this random transition with no explanation. it just flows like it's like the next part of the book. and then you're like, oh, this is going to keep happening. Fuck. Yeah.
I'm going to jump ahead a little bit in the plot here, but my major source of confusion from trying to read this book was in all the scenes at the hologram school, in which one of his teachers is named Cicero, but it's not the Cicero that you're aware. Like, they're like, like the class before this one was, the ethics of propaganda with Martin Luther King and Adolf Hitler, and then the next class is being taught by Cicero, and I was like, oh wow, the Roman senator. And no, it's just a lawyer named Cicero.
Yeah, I am going to take a departure from you guys in saying that this actually showed an incredible amount of restraint by PDB. I expected it to be the real Cicero, but he he held back for once in his life.
No, okay, I got to jump ahead for a little bit here, but talking about the hologram school, there are the hologram school is the best part of this book.
Oh, it's the best.
And the game of Trader Ball is one of the funniest things. The game of Trader Ball is one of the funniest. It's like clearly PBD was like, Harry Potter is a big success. It was a big part of that book. Oh, the made up fucking Quidditch game.
Quidditch.
Yeah. So but the thing is, give J.K. Rowling credit. She describes how the game of Quidditch works, who the players are, what the field looks like, what the scoring is, and everything, such that it could be portrayed in a movie. In Patrick Bet-David's book, during one of the feats of strength you have to accomplish to enter the academy, is playing a game called Trader Ball, which, as best I can tell it, is basketball, except you can switch sides at any moment, and you also play with holograms of Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, and Jim Thorpe, who 18-year-old Ashur recognizes on sight. Jim Thorpe.
It's one of the most confusing fictional games ever. I remember when we were talking to Josh Sawyer about the card game they made for Fallout New Vegas, and I'm always interested in that. People who create fictional, entirely new ball sports or card games for fictional works, because it seems incredibly difficult to make one that works and makes sense in universe. Patrick Bet-David does not even try. No fictional game has ever made less fucking sense, including Kelvin Ball. It's so confusing. It seems to be basketball, but with Austrian economic principles, I guess. and it's the reader, for the life of them, cannot figure it out. If they told me, we'll kill your entire family, but you have 10 years to figure out and describe the rules of Trader Ball, and if you do, we'll give you $10 trillion, but if you don't, we'll kill your family, I couldn't do it. You gave me 10 years and Dexies. But Wayne Gretzky and Jim fucking Thorpe, they're just such great athletes that the second they start playing Trader Ball, they're like, oh, I know what this is. They just dominate. A
great part about that section is he does another Asher is so cool thing where while he's playing, he's just crushing, and he's like, man, maybe if I went to college, I could have been a D1 athlete. I'm this good at it. I have potential. And then they don't really reveal that the game is called Trader Ball until halfway through. One of the people just knows to switch sides, and he goes, what are you doing? You're betraying me. And then she reveals the title. Well, yeah, we're playing Trader Ball after all. It was just
that character disappears, never to return again. How does Ashur get to the academy? Well, he goes on a little romantic getaway with his bubble butt girlfriend. Not really important, but the action of the book starts when he returns to the second place that he frequents, the Bob's Big Boy, where he works, and foils a robbery. This was an amazing section. So Ashur goes to pick up his check from his jerk boss. And while he's there, armed men come in to rob the establishment, and that he uses his dad's unloaded gun to bluff them into. He saves the day. They're messing with an employee. The dialogue of the criminals is some of the funniest parts of this book.
Well, what's great about it is they're robbing a fucking Bob's Big Boy, and then at the end of while they're robbing it, they become even more sinister. It's you guys are just hacky robbers, just robbing a shitty burger joint. But now he's trying to rape the woman out of nowhere. The guy's like, I need a little bit more.
Yeah, these criminals are in free roam mode. They're just like, they like went out that day and they're like, let's just get our names out there and do as many crimes as possible. It's the equivalent of like going to a place you don't work and sweeping the floors. If we start off robbing a Bob's Big Boys and then escalate to like horrible sexual crimes, then the local crime guys will notice us.
Here's an example of some of the dialogue in this scene. The gunman paused for a moment, but did not drop the revolver. Stay right where you are, Ashur said. I've got you covered. Who the hell are you? The man said. He almost sounded amused. I'm the guy pointing a gun at you. You're not a cop, the man said. I speak cop. You're talking in a different dialect. So, Ashur, he saves the day.
Wait, can I just ask as a point of clarity? So he just was bringing his father's unloaded gun to his place of business every day?
He had it in his backpack because he ran away from home, and then remember it as the robbery is going on. He's like, "Oh wait, I have a gun."
Okay.
But it's
Crucial to the story, though, is that he forgot the clip and the gun is totally unloaded.
Okay, great.
Badass.
I just love the idea of like running away from home with your empty gun, not even trying to find a mag or any ammo, and being like, well, I might find this if I perform a quest for somebody.
So yeah, he is even though he saves the Bob's Big Boy from being robbed and one of his coworkers from being raped by criminal thugs, he is arrested to presumably California's strict gun laws that demand that your gun be registered if you point it at people at a Bob's Big Boy.
Yeah, you can't just be a famously pissed off child carrying a gun around.
but he just turned 18, so he is looking at a stiff jail sentence. But not before a mysterious individual named Vaya is like, don't worry about it. I took care of the charges. But in exchange for not going to prison, would you like to come to the academy? It's a university located in suburban Dallas. And he's like, okay. And then literally like the way he compresses time, or the events of the first 5 chapters of this book take place over the course of like 12 hours at most. And then seemingly like within a few hours, he goes from Los Angeles to Dallas to visit. It's basically just a university campus that's covered with a hologram that makes it invisible. So it's like Wakanda. It's like Dallas-Wakanda.
Yeah, it's like the Shadow Realm and Shadow of the Erd Tree. Like America was like, these Persians are too powerful. We have to banish them. What was David Bowie's character in Twin Peaks? You know how he's always like, he's always experiencing like time dilation and like this is the only book that tries to capture what it would be like to live your life through Jeffrey's eyes.
In fact, we're not going to talk about Ashur at all. We're going to talk about Cassandra.
Wait, back to the arrest. One of my favorite lines when he's getting arrested, like the cop is like, "Look, we got to get you. We got to take you in. You don't have a permit." But he has a point of saying, I've been on the force for 20 years and I ain't never seen anything like this case before. It's like, really?
He's been a cop in Southern California for 20 years.
Crazy. There's a robbery that got foiled. You're fucking sick, dude.
As long as we're talking about favorite lines and we're in the pre-academy part, we're just about to get to the academy. I would be remiss. During one of the scenes where they're explaining what a horrible Azari alcoholic communist bitch Rose, Ashur's mother, is, it contains one of my favorite lines I've ever read in any bad book, which is, Ashur looked at her glass. It was empty, but he knew it wouldn't stay that way. It's like, it's a fucking glass. He looked at it. He looked at it regretfully. She isn't just going to walk all day with that empty glass. One day she'll refill it with liquid. God forbid.
So yeah, so here, arriving at the academy, it's an invisible university in Dallas that basically, like, he's part of sort of the best and brightest of American society who will be sort of applying to the limited number of academy slots. He meets a couple of the other students, including Cassandra, who quickly becomes his new love interest. Kiki is never heard from again. There's Boris, who's sort of like a nerd and becomes his sidekick. And we learn that the academy is basically run by World Corp, the most which is the largest and most profitable company in the world, thanks to the realistic holographic billboards that they sell.
Which you only see in like Glendale. This company was valued at like $5 trillion, and they're like, "What do? We make billboards of Albert Einstein in Glendale saying study von Mises."
well, Rick Caruso is an investor.
Yeah.
Also, every student at the academy is given a cube, which is a cube that utilizes quantum gravity. That like basically is like it's like Siri, except it's a cube that floats around and follows you everywhere.
This company has quantum gravity technology.
They can manipulate
the laws of physics, and they're in the billboard industry.
Well,
they're in the fucking billboard industry. They could be like colonizing space, and they're like, we could get Wayne Gretzky and Friedrich Nietzsche on a billboard in Glendale.
Well, Felix, this gets into like one of the main problems with like the plot of this book, because it's like, why does the Academy have to hide itself? Because like we learn, like, I mean, jumping ahead to the end here, we learn that like the two Savak guys from the beginning are sort of like, they're still alive, and one runs the Academy and one is the enemy of the Academy. And the enemy of the Academy wants to expose the Academy by making its existence known to the world, because like all the quantum gravity technology they're utilizing to make a hologram of Marilyn Monroe to teach you about how to seduce Jack Kennedy could be put to better use than just giving confidence to some shithead kid from Glendale.
Yeah,
but what is the utility of all of this like sci-fi like technology if they're only using it to create the future great men of history? It's just like, it's like if Columbia University had like a teleportation machine, but like they only told you about it on orientation.
It's so funny because it's like, they have quantum technology and they're like, what's the best use for this? We're going to like have a boarding school that's only for Persians so they can learn how to be better real estate agents.
Yeah.
But then the bad Savak guys want to take the technology, but the technology that they want to take that will change the world isn't the fucking gravity-defying physical quantum device. It's like the hologram of Marilyn Monroe being like, here's how to really suck a dick. Because I'm not being mean. That's what her lesson is.
Yeah. No, one of the first lessons that the students this is after they pass their trials, which include wisdom, strength, and courage. The strength trial is I'll say again, the strength trial is playing a game of Trader Ball with holographic representations of Jim Thorpe, Wayne Gretzky, and Michael Jordan. The courage test is like they basically put you in a VR goggle and you see your greatest fear, which is like, for Asher, it's not living up to his father's expectations and the Islamic Revolution.
What a shitty fear!
Yeah, like I don't know, mine are like heights or being rats or something like that. And then the wisdom test was confusing. It was just like some. Do you remember what the wisdom test was?
Yes, yeah, it's like a number. A numbered thing where you're supposed to overthink it. You're trying to find a pattern with numbers, and then the solution is just, the numbers go up. It just goes 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the pattern. It's so stupid.
I love that part because it's like I am far from even competent at like any of the scary forms of mathematics, but like Patrick Bet-David trying to come up with like an insane math problem like from Good Will Hunting is so funny. It's like
another aspect.
The thing he comes up with is like something that you give someone as part of a concussion protocol.
Yeah, and then the other thing is the cube is trying to trick you into thinking you got the right answer by giving you like autistic sensory. So when you get the pattern wrong, it like just blares and sirens go off and it gets like red and stuff. So you think, I'm doing the wrong thing. And then you're like, no, this is good because I'll only learn if I fail. And that's how he's able to outsmart the complicated math problem of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
8. Wisdom is learning that the answer to problems are actually deceptively simple.
Yeah.
That's the wisdom that he portrays. But I want to get into the holographic teachers and lessons that they again that utilize some sort of like it's either alien technology or ancient technology or ancient alien technology. It's basically like what the technology that the Shah was on the cusp of developing were it not for the Ayatollah. We would have we'd all be fucking holographic Marilyn Monroe by now.
I expected that to be one of the flashback scenes, like some great Savant scientist being like, I pulled out enough high school students' toenails to create the quantum device, and Kamini being like, throw it away, it's against Islam.
But like the worst part of the book by far is a chapter that felt about 1,000 pages long. That's just a debate between Karl Marx and Margaret Thatcher in one of their classes.
Oh, but like, God.
The section that I want to talk about is this is like his idea of what a university is, including a lesson on seduction that's taught by Marilyn Monroe, Helen of Troy, Cleopatra, an unnamed Chinese princess from like the Qin dynasty, and maybe there's one other, but like an aspect of this that I want to talk about is that like using the Savic quantum gravity hologram technology and AI, they like create the brain patterns of these long dead people, but they make clear that like it's not just based on like an algorithm; it's based on their DNA, which is causes problems considering that several of the teachers are fictional characters or have been dead so long that like how would the Academy have gotten a hold of Helen of Troy's DNA or Sir Lancelot for that matter?
I forgot about
Sir Lancelot is one of the teachers. Yeah,
that's who Cassandra has to have her speed dating with. I think she turns him off. She turns off Lancelot.
The idea of any of these fucking idiots getting like Tupac's DNA or how would that work? How he just goes into like the Las Vegas morgue after Tupac's death, and he's like, "Hi, I run a Persian hologram company." Oh, right away, sir. Are you from the Academy? We've been expecting you.
One of my biggest disappointment with this book is that the lecture that takes place between Tupac and Adolf Hitler is given not even a fraction of what the conversation between Karl Marx and Margaret Thatcher is.
I wish the whole book was the Tupac section, because that was my favorite thing ever, especially listening to it on audiobook and listening to the guy like do the Tupac accent. I was crying laughing. It was awesome.
I was let down too. Like we were talking about doing this book before a few weeks ago, and I didn't even know about this book until I saw a video about it. And the guy who did the video mentioned there's a debate between Tupac and Hitler, and that was like enough to sell me. But it really isn't like, the Thatcher and Marx debate gets way more pages. You know what else is weird? They have all these debates. They can get anyone. Why don't they have the Shah versus Khomeini?
Yeah. And here's another weird aspect of the book. When Hitler is talking about like how to control and rule people, he says the hardest nation to control is a nation where people have faith and a strong religious sense because they believe in hope and something bigger than themselves. So it's harder for the state to take control. Well, how does PBD square that with the Islamic Revolution?
That's a great point.
Because, surely religion has been used to control people and, politics for quite some time.
I mean, another thing with the Hitler thing that I think is hilarious, and this is another recurring thing that you see in this book, and, really all bad writing, is that, when Hitler is talking about how to control, he's like, lie to everyone and be evil and, be incompetent at doing the government. The same thing with Rose when there's a flashback scene right before Asher's amazing deified dad dies, where she goes, "Well, you're the reason I'm an alcoholic because you gave me my first drink," which is that character would never say she's an alcoholic. She wouldn't be like, "Well, I'm an alcoholic and it's because of you." She would be like, "No, I'm fine."
The whole point of being an alcoholic is that you don't think you're an alcoholic.
Everyone is so deterministic. His mom gets up every day and is like, "Well, time to put on my silk bathrobe and ruin my looks with alcohol because my job is alcoholic." And then Asher is like, my job is pissed off son. Time to go glower at a gravestone for 15 hours. Thank God for the Academy, because they would just be doing this until old age.
I want to read a couple selections from the art of seduction section of this book. First one goes, "Those are only the tools," Marilyn said. That's the hologram of Marilyn Monroe, in case you're wondering. Apparently unfazed by Cassandra's standoffish attitude, but the goal and the danger is its own thing entirely. Sex, Boris said. Marilyn tittered. Close. Seduction. I don't get it, Cassandra said. Why should sex or seduction, whatever, have priority over all the things we could be studying? What's wrong with sex? Asher asked. Nothing's wrong with sex, Cassandra said, rolling her eyes. But this is like some totally male fantasy. Jahi shifted uncertainly, his mouth still twisted into a frown. Cicero, sir, he said. That's the lawyer from California, Cicero, not the Roman. He said, I'm not really sure if this is appropriate for me to be studying. Not all of your lessons at the academy will be comfortable, Jahi, Cicero said. Often the goal is to explicitly to push you outside of your comfort zone. But I assure you, there is reasoning behind the curriculum. Everything we do is in the service of helping you grow and achieve your potential. In a way, I was always attracted to men who didn't throw themselves at me, the ones I couldn't seduce easily. They always caught my attention because my spell didn't work on them, not fully at least. Who could resist you, Boris asked. Asher and Brody chuckled at him, his face flushed red. Marilyn smiled and touched a hand to her hair, her eyes looking briefly to the side. Well, she said softly, there was one man who did, even though we knew each other for many years and felt so much love for one another, not to mention attraction. Who was he, Boris asked. Marilyn looked back at the apprentice, her face aglow. John Kennedy, Cassandra asked. Marilyn shrugged, still smiling. I just still think of him as John. We never did get together, but I loved him wholeheartedly until the end. I wish we'd had a chance, but that's how it goes sometime. Okay, I want to bring this up in the context of the idea that Marilyn Monroe and Jack Kennedy loved each other is one of the most insane things I've ever heard. But also the idea that Marilyn Monroe, like this poor woman who was just like on pills and being groomed 24/7 by reprehensible pricks like Jack Kennedy and like the entire Hollywood studio system, was not a master of seduction. She was a master at being used by powerful men for their own ends. It's like his idea of what seduction and love are very confused, in my opinion.
Sure.
It also begs the question of like, why is this a class? Like, is this a pickup artist school?
But also, Felix, here's the other thing that like his whole conception of education is hilarious because like there's nothing that these holographic instructors do for the students that couldn't be replicated by them reading a book about their lives.
Yeah, I mean, some would say that would be better, but like, there's a part where the holograms get fucked up due to the machinations of the horrible, short, little, disgusting man Boris, who. One of my favorite parts of the book when of course, there's like a plot to steal the holograms. And when Boris explains it to Asher, he's like, he basically gives Liquid Snake speech from Metal Gear Solid. He goes, do you have any idea what it's like to be average here? and I feel like a piece of shit. I'm nothing like you. I'll never be as angry as you. I'll never fuck Kiki Johnson. I suck. I'm a loser. And it's like, yeah, a shitty version of Liquid Snake speech. But immediately after Asher is moved by this, he's like, what an incredible speech. I'll help you. But anyway, after he like fucks with the holograms, one of the teachers is like, well, like, I'd love to teach the class myself, but I'm just not as good as the Tupac hologram.
Well, I love
I'll be wasting your time.
I love the way the Tupac hologram is introduced. He goes, this man is self-educated, passionate, and driven. He has read and thought more about political theory and history than many more traditional instructors and has a unique perspective. And then that whole Tupac section ends with Tupac pulling a gun on a kid.
Yes. But
it's so awesome. You know, why are you looking at me, white boy? He pulls out a fucking gun. It's so great.
But not before telling them to read Ludwig van Mises.
And Hegel. He's like, y'all ever read Hegel?
Yeah, it's such a weird interpretation of Tupac. Like he just bursts in there and he's like, the government is corrupt. Y'all gotta read Murray Rothbard, yo. It's such funny, like bad rapper dialogue. But then one of the kids is like, Are we really having a street rapper who sags his pants teach us? Why can't we talk to Maria Curie or Isaac Newton, you know? And then Tupac's like, you bitch motherfucker, I'm gonna kill you. it's like, what the fuck is this?
It's so sick.
Did Tupac ever do that? Did Tupac ever like go up to a nerd and be like, I'm gonna kill you, bitch ass? I don't think so.
No, the line, you think you smart, huh? Smarter than me? Too smart to listen? You must have it all figured out. And then he pulls out the gun. How about now, huh? You respect me now, white boy? So
what
sick.
kind of a lesson is that?
So sick.
What are you learning?
Well, here's some example of the syllabus at the Academy. It says, they took their lessons down in the vault with Cicero guiding conversations with some of the most august and interesting figures in history. Usher talked to George Washington about politics and morality. Martin Luther King about organizing and changing hearts and minds. Ayn Rand about using art to make political arguments and the importance of individual freedom and excellence. Okay, why was Ayn Rand teaching a course about art and literature and not in the seduction class? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Number one. Baba boom. But also, I love the idea that Cicero's like, I would love to teach these courses myself, but I'm not as interesting as Johnny Appleseed or Paul Bunyan, who you'll be encountering in your next lesson. There's one more section about Cleopatra. He took a deep breath. It felt slightly awkward to have everyone else watching him, as though he were on a first date being observed. This isn't the speed dating section where he has to do a date with Cleopatra. And he says, this first date being observed by an audience. But he told himself this was no different than talking with any other woman. May I call you Cleopatra? By the end of the day's lessons, Usher was exhausted. He had done well in his back and forth with Cleopatra. She hadn't come all the way around to him, but he was pretty sure that if she was real, he could have convinced her to go out for dinner with him, if not to bed. So he's like, I probably could have fucked Cleopatra.
Why does he even need the Academy? He can fuck Cleopatra. He's amazing at sex. He doesn't need these people.
I feel like take us to the end of this book, because nothing really happens in the book.
Such a boring book.
Yeah, it's quite dry, this read. But basically, Boris is a betrayer working for the bad Savak agent who wants to share the holographic billboard technology with the world. And then he screws up the holograms, but he tries to recruit Usher, but Usher is just does the old double cross on him, and then he gets with Cassandra, and they graduate from the Academy. That's the end of the book.
Yeah,
that's the end of the book. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, I alluded to it, but Boris and the bad Savak agents that we find out killed Usher's dad, the most perfect dad ever, and robbed Usher of a chance to have his dad watch him fuck Cleopatra or something. They killed each other. They killed him over some Iranian bullshit and made it look like a car accident. It turns out that the guy who runs the Academy, who is the same guy from the gravesite, is actually Usher's grandfather, who has never been in his life because he tried to come to Usher's house after his dad was killed and explain the Academy and be like, hey, we have a hologram of Eazy-E, and he's going to tell you how to get AIDS. And his and his bitch Azari communist mom was like, you're a piece of shit. Big business is evil. Get out of here. I hate all you men, and so he never sees him. Even though he's powerful enough to get anyone's DNA, he can never even send a postcard to his fucking idiot grandson. So Usher, he was involved in Boris's plot because Boris was like, hey, if we do this hologram technology, you can meet your dad again. And Usher was obviously moved by this, but then he realizes Boris is evil and they killed his dad in a car crash. He helps the Academy. There's a big celebration with, as Patrick Bet-David notes, a generous open bar. But Rose, now good because of the exploits of her heroic son, who, by the way, when he goes back to the Academy to warn his grandpa about Boris's evil plans, he's rescued from some plumbing system he's drowning in by fucking what's her name?
Cassandra. And then they have sex in the girls' locker room.
They have sex, and the part where they fuck is hilarious because it's they were laying there laughing. for the first time in he didn't know how long, Asher felt something other than grim determination. Which is so weird. It's one of some of the weirdest writing I've ever read. But then, yeah, they're at the celebration. His grandpa's like, "You're in the academy, yeah, now, hooray!" And Asher's mom is like, "I'm not an alcoholic bitch anymore. I love you." And that's it. Kiki Johnson meets Cassandra, and Asher.
Wait, Kiki shows up to the graduation?
Yeah. And Asher is worried about it because he's like, what if they don't like each other? Or worse yet, what if they love each other and they make fun of me?
And then he gets 2 girlfriends. That would be sick if it ended with him getting 2 girlfriends.
Aren't you supposed to be like great at sex? Did you like fuck both these girls' brains out? I mean, we don't really know because it's like he kisses them and then the next moment they're in bed and they're laughing about something. But presumably, like, Asher's great at everything and he channels his anger and like imagines his dad being there and just blows these girls' minds. But they like each other, thank God, and everything ends happily. But I think there's room for a sequel where like they bring the Shah back to life with fucking holograms and take over Iran.
I mean, I think the door is wide open for a sequel. But my question is, if everything about the Academy is designed to keep it a secret, including because there's some shit about how they have to protect the list of everyone who's gone to the Academy, who've gone on to be.
Which like why? Like what? Okay. Literally, if you told me like, hey, this person went to a special school where a hologram of Marilyn Monroe told them about jerking off JFK, I'd be like, okay. Like, what?
Well, like, okay, so like the university itself has to be like hidden Wakanda style with like holograms that make it invisible. But then when it comes time to graduate, you can invite your family.
Invite all your family and friends.
I think people know about the Academy, just no one gives a shit. They're like, hey, so you know that weird Persian school where they have the children fuck Marilyn Monroe? Yeah, let's just not talk about it. I wish Dallas had zoning laws so we could kick them out, but you know.
Wait, so they feel the need to specify that there's like a beautiful open bar at the graduation? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
But so Rose is like, I'm not a drunk anymore. Let's have a drink. Let's get fucked up at the open bar. In a cool way.
No. She doesn't drink at all.
Oh.
Asher notes that she did not have a single drink that night.
Damn.
Oh, and then like there's something about how his girlfriend Cassandra is like seems to be arguing in favor of Karl Marx, but then it's revealed that like she just hates her dad, who's a rich business CEO, because he had an affair and ruined their family, and she doesn't actually hate capitalism; she just hates her father.
That was a relief.
That was awesome.
A relief. I thought I was gonna have to like stop standing Cassandra, but thank God.
I just one last thing I want to point out. I watched a YouTube video on reviewing the Academy, and I didn't notice this myself, but credit to the YouTuber who read the like 40 pages of acknowledgments in this book where Patrick David basically tells you like the little story behind the story about how he came to write this book. And there's an amazing part where he was like, it was on the day that I chose to name my main character Ashur that I ran into a man who's also named Ashur. But the crazy thing was he wasn't Assyrian. Then I ran into another man named Ashur who also wasn't an Assyrian. That's when I knew I was on the right track.
What?
So like,
see, like this is why I love like this. This is why I think he's awesome. Like Ben Shapiro, fucking Michael Knowles, all these guys, Steven Crowder. They're all like hateful, failed something or others. But Patrick Bet-David is so like I don't know. He just makes me smile. Like out of all these guys, I would hang out with him over any of them easily.
There's also something endearing about the idea of like this rich guy who he doesn't have to do anything. He's like, you know what I should write? A YA novel. Like, there's like the lamest possible thing you could do is write a YA fiction novel. And it's like, if you're doing it and you have that much, it's for the pure love of the game. Like, he just loves the art form of YA fiction.
Yeah. I think you're right. Like, I think you're right. Like, it's such an incredibly earnest and silly, like thing to write that I would have never expected out of him. It's really, even though this book was a fucking slog to read, and I'm glad to be done with it, I walked away charmed by Mr. Bet David, as always.
Oh, well, really quick, Felix, how does Dobiel get back into it? Who is that character?
Dobiel is the evil Slavic guy who's the enemy.
Really?
He's the enemy of the academy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good to know.
And the director of the academy is his grandfather.
Okay,
Sargon.
I missed that too. That's awesome.
It's really not important. It really doesn't matter.
None of this is important.
But Felix, I think you make like to compare PBD to the other like erstwhile authors of the conservative media sphere, like Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, like the ones we've read on the show, is like all those guys who are bitter, hateful, malevolent people. Like they spent their childhoods wanting to be like actors, musicians, artists, and are terrible at it and failed. And that's what curdled their life into becoming like, hateful demagogues. But like Patrick Bet David was already hugely successful doing multi-level marketing schemes. So like when he shares his sort of vision with the world, it's like he never had the ambition to be, in the creative arts. So like his foray into it is less embittered than his compatriots who all wanted to be recognized for their artistic talent, but the fact that they're bereft of it entirely has led them to be, like you said, small, hateful, bitter, malevolent people.
That is a great point. That's like an amazing distinction. I think like even the parts of those like other fictional works by other conservative guys, even the parts that aren't like so explicit, like in Lady Ballers, when the woman's like, "I'm a journalist, so I'm a stupid piece of shit who should die," or like all the media people that are stand-ins for like executives that that stonewalled them. There's like really the only characters in this that are totems of resentment just seem to be like people from Patrick Bet David's life. But all of them, except for that little piece of shit Boris and Dobiel, get redeemed. Even Rose, that Azari witch.
So yeah, that's the Academy.
Patrick Bet David.
Yeah.
How much of this do you think was actually written? Do you think he used AI for it?
I think there's a very strong likelihood that a lot of it was written
sure.
in ChatGPT.
Sure.
I think it's AI because. Do you notice every time that an evil character laughed, it said he barked with laughter?
or when someone is described as fiercely intelligent, probably 80 times in the book.
Yeah, there's so many repeated phrases that if a real person did this, I think like give them the concussion protocol.
Yeah, so that does it for the Academy and Patrick Bet David. Should we wrap it up there?
Yeah, stand PBD. Go in your thinking room.
Stand the Shah.
If you see your stupid Azari mom with an empty glass, slap it out of her hand. Have like an erotic scene where you grab her wrist and make you hit her. Go to your father's grave. Fuck Kiki Johnson. Think about your dad being there. Go to the Shah's grave. Cry there. Beat up Boris. Flop around in the fucking sewage system under your school and wait till a girl rescues you and then fuck her while you're covered in Academy sewage water. Talk to the hologram of Sir Lancelot and Nina Hartley.
Now we're talking. Now we're talking.
School,
all right,
baby.
Learn the art of bravery and seduction. Most of all, join the Academy.
All right, guys. Till next time. Bye-bye.